great to be rejoined by Tanner Kern. Does tremendous work over at DraftKings, and he follows lots of different sports. We were just talking about some baseball. Now let's dive in on some football. And you've got some MVP long shots I was alluding to in the last segment. We'll dive in on those in a second, but first things first, we got to get a sweat for Monday because the MVP awarded will not be awarded on Monday. Meanwhile, a winner in this game will hopefully be crowned on Monday. It is the Baltimore Ravens, the Washington Commanders. Commanders open up as 3.5-point underdogs. Now this is between 1 and 1.5 with a total of 37 to 38, depending upon where you shop. A lot of places at 37.5. How do you view this? Because with the Ravens, it has been an eon and a half since they have lost a preseason game, yet the money's coming in against them.
The streak's going to die, Greg. The streak is going to die. I'm not confident in Baltimore at all in this spot. I love the Washington Commanders here with the points. Take the 1 point here just because it is the preseason. There are ties, so I think it's more beneficial doing that. But the sharp money is all over the Commanders in this spot. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean anything because we saw last night with the Aljamain Sterling fight that the sharp money was on him too, and Sugar Sean O'Malley obviously dominated him. So sharp money doesn't mean the world, but it is something to look at here. And 25% of the bets and 48% of the handle is on the Commanders at +1 here. So 25% of the bets getting 48% of the money. The whales, the guys that can change the lines, are on the Washington Commanders in this spot, and they should be because Lamar Jackson, if he plays, probably not going to be a lot, and then Tyler Huntley is likely not going to play with a hamstring injury. So now you're trusting guys like Josh Johnson, 37-year-old Josh Johnson, and rookie Anthony Brown to get the job done for the Baltimore Ravens. I just simply can't see that happening. And on the other side, this is a huge spot for the Washington Commanders. If you're a Commanders fan, I'm sorry. This is probably the biggest game you're going to have all season. You got Monday Night Football with the chance to end the greatest winning streak for bettors of all time here on ESPN. So the combination of all this stuff here, I got to lean towards Commanders. I think Sam Howell's going to play at least a half in this game. I think the Commanders starters are going to be in it. The Ravens are beat up. The streak has to end at some point. The Sharps are back in the Washington Commanders here. No doubt in my mind, I'm going to go against the streak here. It could come back to bite me in the you-know-what, but I do like Washington in this spot.
And I say this every single time we bring up Josh Johnson. If you want 5 minutes of fun, just Wikipedia Josh Johnson and look at all the different teams that he has been on. There was a team named the Fleet. I think that was like the Alliance of American Football League or something like that he was aboard on. Like 3 different stints with the 49ers. I mean, this guy has been just passed around in the NFL circle the way that you'd pass around a basket of breadsticks when you go to Olive Garden with like a family of 12. It's absolutely insane. So that is a lot of fun to be able to dive in on. It's also fun to be able to try to find some long shots and try to be able to find some value with regards to some of these futures markets. And I know you're taking a look at the MVP market. We know the big 3, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, they're your 3 favorites. They're all less than 10 to 1. And then you get to more like the Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence between 11 to 15 to 1. But you're looking a little bit further down the list, and there's a pair of guys that are north of 25 to 1 that you're finding a little bit of value on.
Yeah, definitely. Names don't have value in the NFL future markets. I posted a video on this earlier tonight. I'm getting ripped apart in the comment section for these picks here, but the bottom line is they have value. When I'm betting futures, I want to take guys with value. There's no value on Mahomes right now, in my opinion. He might win the award, but his odds are just so low, it's just not worth taking, in my opinion. I like Jared Goff at +3,000. I like Geno Smith at +3,000 because those guys have a ton of value. There's a company called coldhardfootballfacts.com, been in the business for 20 years, do a ton of proprietary stats, and they have a stat called real quarterback rating. It's the #1 indicator of championship football teams. And when you look at Jared Goff and Geno Smith, both those guys check out in that category. And you know it works because Patrick Mahomes was #1 in that stat last year. He ended up winning the MVP, obviously. But when we look at Jared Goff, he ranked 5th in real quarterback rating. Geno Smith ranked 7th in real quarterback rating. So those 2 guys were top 10 quarterbacks, and you're getting them for nearly 30 to 1 right now in a lot of different books. I can give you some other names here like Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert. Those guys didn't check out, but they're names, so they're ranked higher in the future markets. Dak Prescott's listed for +1,600 right now. He's in 8th place on most boards. And then you look at Justin Herbert. He's 9 to 1 right now. He's like 4th or 5th on most MVP boards. But those guys weren't even in the top 10 of real quarterback rating last year. So when I'm looking for value here, I want the 30 to 1, but I'm getting it for 2 top 10 quarterbacks. One quarterback was top 5 last year. You got to think both these guys are going to improve. Jared Goff's on a hungry Lions team that's going to make a push to the playoffs. And then Geno Smith, they had Jackson Smith and Jigba. They have a really good wide receiver core with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. There's no reason to think he's not going to get better this year. The MVP belongs to a quarterback, so I'm checking that box right there. The value is on these two players. It's not on the big names that we see at the top of the board. So going to sprinkle a little bit here. They might not win it, but again, when it comes down to it, I'm getting a ton of value and a ton of bang for my buck.
Yeah, they certainly are going to be able to provide that, and especially if the Seattle Seahawks can be a sneaky team in the NFC West. And I do think that there's a chance that they could be able to win that division. If I had to bet that division right now, I think the best ROI is with the Seattle Seahawks, and I could be able to provide quite a bit as well. So I'm very intrigued to see how that goes. As joining me on the show, we do have our good friend Tanner Kern. He does tremendous work over at DraftKings, and I know that you, Tanner, you were just talking about this. You don't want to be necessarily buying into those big brand names. You don't want to be buying into those guys that everyone is buzzing about, things like that. You want to be taking a look at the raw numbers, trying to find where the value is, and you're finding value on a specific team that, I don't know, they've been on a specific show called Hard Knocks recently, and you're looking at them to miss the playoffs at plus money. Take me through why you're not so bullish on the Jets this year.
Yeah, I got to give this play next time I'm on Saturday or Sunday bet prep with Jeff, because obviously he's a Jets fan. I'm sorry, Jeff. The team's probably not going to make the playoffs. I'm going to take them not to make the playoffs here for plus 110. You look at the teams getting into the playoffs right now. It's going to be the Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, and Jaguars. Those are my division winners. Now you get the wild card. So 3 more teams are getting in. A couple of the names here: Chargers, Broncos, Ravens, Steelers, Browns, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots. The AFC is absolutely loaded. This is not a joke of a conference by any means. And I think the Jets are going to really struggle early in the season. They're a paper champion. It's great to be a paper champion. You got to go out and prove it. We were talking in the break, obviously, about a team like the Padres, a team with a lot of hype going into the season that didn't deliver. I kind of look at the New York Jets like that. I think they're a paper champion that might not translate to an actual champion right now. Aaron Rodgers wasn't great last season. Obviously, he was injured. He should be better this year, but there's no guarantee he's still an MVP caliber quarterback. And he's going to play in front of an injury-prone offensive line. If you're watching Hard Knocks, the entire narrative is the offensive line right now. Are they going to be good? And they get injured a lot. So that's not something I necessarily want to bet on. And then you look at their play caller, Nathaniel Hackett. I can't get behind him one bit, especially with this schedule early on. I mean, this team is going to be tested right off the bat. First stretch, Bills at the Cowboys. They got the Patriots at home, the Chiefs at home. At the Broncos, you go to the Eagles, and then you got at the Giants, and then the Chargers. I think they're 3-5 in the first half of the season. I really do. Worst case, they could be 2-6. Best case, they could be 6-2. But I'm going to lean towards that 3-5 mark. And then they have the Raiders. They're at the Bills. They get the Dolphins twice in the back half of the season. Falcons, Texans, Commanders, Browns, and Patriots. Now that schedule is a little easier. I could see them going 6-3 there. So best case, they're 9-8. And there's no guarantee that gets you in the playoffs. It should, but I'm not saying they're going to be 9-8. They could just as easily be 8-9 here. So for the plus money, I'd rather take them to not make the playoffs rather than minus 140, minus 150 for them to get in the playoffs. Again, paper champions don't always equate to regular champions. I think this could be the case with the 2023 New York Jets.
And then, Tanner, let me throw this at you as well, because I have yet to bet any Jets futures for the upcoming season, but I do have my trepidations with regards to their win total going over. I have trepidations with them going to the playoffs, so I'm certainly not going to be betting the yes or anything like that. But what would you think of the angle of thinking that the Jets, they are going to get off to a slow start? And I wholeheartedly think that they are going to be sub 500 after their first 6, perhaps even 8 games of the season, but then maybe backing them a little bit later on during the season, just maybe towards a game-to-game perspective, or perhaps taking an adjusted win total if it gets down to like maybe an 8.5, an 8, something like that over.
Yeah, I think taking an adjusted win total is a great idea. 9.5 is a little too high here because when I see best case 9-8, I'm always going to lean on that under. But if they do start 3-5 or even 2-6 in that first 8-game stretch, you're going to get an adjusted win total, and they're good enough to turn around against teams like the Falcons, the Texans, and the Commanders. So I think that's a great play. And if they start hot and they're 6-2, so be it. You missed out on a bet, but there's plenty of other opportunities to get in on these future markets.
We never miss out on great information, though, when you join, Tanner. You do tremendous work at DraftKings, and I always appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Really appreciate it.
It is